We know that the next week or two is likely to be incredibly difficult, but I want you to hear it from the current Surgeon General, Vice Admiral Jerome Adams. Here is what he had to say about what we're likely to experience.
Well, it's tragically fitting that we're talking at the beginning of Holy Week, because this is going to be the hardest and the saddest week of most Americans' lives, quite frankly. This is going to be our Pearl Harbor moment, our 9/11 moment, only it's not going to be localized. It's going to be happening all over the country, and I want America to understand that.
That was the Surgeon General saying that this is likely to be a Pearl Harbor, a 9/11, but not in one area, all over the place. That's, you know, about as lofty language as you can use for this in terms of trying to get people ready for it.
Yeah, it's grim. I mean, I will say, though, that like 2,400 Americans died in Pearl Harbor. We're reaching 1,000 a day for this virus. You know, more people have already died than died in 9/11. And then I'll just caution against using some of this wartime language, which we know after Pearl Harbor, Japanese Americans were interned.
Yep.
We know after 9/11, we launched not one, but two illegal wars on Afghanistan and then Iraq. So, like, let's just kind of temper that kind of war talk. There is no scapegoat, as hard as Trump tries to make, you know, whether it's China a scapegoat, Asian Americans even a scapegoat, calling this you know, the foreign virus. Whoever he can make a scapegoat, but you can't. Where's the retaliation? The only place to retaliate against when this is all done is our privatized healthcare system and our ransacked government that's been sold for parts in the last 30 years that we need to put back together.
Exactly. Yeah. I haven't been watching him as closely, but I think he might have mostly moved on from the China virus stuff, hopefully. We'll see. I know Tucker Carlson was all over it last week, and attacking immigrants and all that stuff. But so you've rightly pointed out, I would say the biggest reasons we should not necessarily be using this wartime or, you know, sort of war rhetoric. I think another great one is that it is a scapegoat in another way too, which is if you get people to start thinking of coronavirus as a Pearl Harbor, the thing about Pearl Harbor was that it was a surprise. And this was not a surprise. This would be Pearl Harbor if Japan had started bombing itself for months, called us up and said, oh, by the way, these bombs aren't stopping at our shores. And then other countries in the region started getting bombed. And then weeks and weeks later, we were bombed. And we were just surprised that it happened. Then it would be like Pearl Harbor. No, we had all the warning we could have possibly hoped for. But here's the thing. When you have the Surgeon General saying, at least, we may not like the language, but he's saying this is going to be really bad, that is almost immediately undercut by Donald Trump.
Obviously, we know anyone can spread the disease, right, unwittingly.
Right.
So why even not have a few businesses open? Why not just shut everything down? There are grocery stores that are open, fast food places. Why even take a little chance? Just shut it all down temporarily.
We'll answer that question later. All I can say is that right now, things are looking really good, and opening up with a bang will be a great thing, and there's nobody going to be happier than me.
Like, the Surgeon General's like, this is going to be 9/11 for the whole country, and he says, things are looking really good. We're going to open up with a bang. Ooh. Things are looking really good. I like, he keeps saying, like, every day as the numbers get higher, he'll literally be standing next to a chart that shows our trajectory going up, worse than other countries. And he'll continually talk about how fine everything is. Like, on the day that more than 10,000 people had died, we crossed the 10,000 point, he started tweeting about how it was great that coronavirus was hurting the ad revenue of the New York Times. How is he able to weather, like, not just lying to people about the disease, but then, like, this is Nero-esque. This is, I mean, he doesn't know how to play the fiddle. That would require practice and patience, but he is doing the equivalent of fiddling by talking about nonsense constantly, like gleefully delighting over the fact that some of his enemies are being hurt by this, mocking when Mitt Romney gets infected. Like, if you think, like, if Jim Acosta or Yamiche got infected, if you don't think he would make some sort of, like, mocking, snide comment during an official presidential address, you're crazy. And it doesn't seem to be hurting him.
No, it's almost like electing a sociopathic celebrity narcissist was a bad idea. Here's what I will say, though, that Trump is speaking in stock market, like Wall Street terms, because he is trying to give a sunny outlook and a sunny projection, which is what he and all of his advisors, Larry Kudlow, right, who's his chief economic advisor, Steve Mnuchin, they're all trying to say that the $2 trillion, which disproportionately does go to businesses and large corporations, will create a bounce back in the market. And that is essentially, it is a microcosm of what happens on a daily basis on Wall Street, which is all about like overinflating and enthusiasm based on a lie, enthusiasm based on nothing, money that doesn't exist, and then just getting people to all jump and dogpile onto that lie to then make a few people even richer. Yeah. So we're seeing that play out, but in the midst of a pandemic, that's why he is talking that way, because he wants to make sure the stock portfolios are okay, and he doesn't care with the human lives that are lost because of it.
And their next step in that mission is they're apparently talking, I think it was the Washington Post reported, they're considering next steps, and one will be a cut to the capital gains tax rate. That's what they're thinking about doing. You know, we were talking like about canceling rent and how like lots of people are going to lose their homes and be out in the street where they'll be ravaged by coronavirus. And they're like, I think day traders are being taxed at too high of a rate. I think that's the problem that we need to fix. By the way, we have shot past 350,000 cases domestically. More than 15,000 reported so far today, and it's 10:28 where I am. So just bear that in mind. But I'm curious, for people in the chat right now, Francesca and I, we talked about our concerns about using the wartime language. What do you think about that? Is it necessary to get through to people the severity of what this is going to happen in terminology that they're used to? Or is it a dodge? And is it going to lead to the wrong sort of response? I'm curious what you all think about that. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.